being can be called to reignite the body, and no other spirit can take over. Now let's skip over here. Souls, this is verse 248. Souls are not one spirit or life. 249, yet may be the factor that determines what course that person's life will take and the length of their life. So on the contrary, souls are not a person's life. The burning or body heat proves this. Yet people live by spirit and nature. The physical life of all visible, yet soul is working with the invisible you. Verse 252, the Ba, soul is the invisible source of life outside of nature. Because at physical death of a person, the soul possessing that person must transmigrate to another state or pass on to one of the person's blood seed to keep subsisting for the family's bloodline. It's called eternal life, that is by the soul. Eternal life, or living forever for a person or a race, is continuous procreation, perpetual reproduction, birth of that person's family or kin. This is why Caucasoids will rape or mix with the Negroid race of Africans to sustain his own existence. You look around you today, you will see he has mixed with all other races to sustain his dying race, as he knew his 6,000 years were coming to an end, and used religion and music to interracial mix. Look at all the half-breeds all over, TV, cinemas. He can use them because most of them are half him and confused or without a soul. You see, no Negaro, woolly-haired, dark-skinned African person is ever dead in the ethnical sense. As long as two breeding Africans, male and female, are still alive and together, because all the Negaro Negroids are of the same origin or ancestral tree. So in fact, as long as two breeding Africans live, all Negroids, living or dead, live through them. All African Negroids are in fact the same flesh and blood with the same soul. Your ancestors, Pt.2, are linked to you by your own flesh and blood parents and your spirit, yet mostly by your soul. Mind your minds for the jewels of your soul. So when we ask the question, can the soul burn out? No. But can their ability to utilize it burn out? Yes, because we're dealing with the rules of nature that are operating on the physical as well as spiritual existence. This is tabi al-taba, natural nature, at work. And Patarak is giving us the way that it works, as it's been revealed to us by way of our master teacher, the master teacher, Panababi Yanun. Does that suffice to answer the question?
Very good.
Good to go.
All right.
We got a brother got a question in the back too.
Earlier before he mentioned.
You want to come? Yeah, I'm sorry. You got to come up to the mic, brother. Just a few steps. We want to make sure that everybody in the online world can hear your question as well. They might have the same question you had.
Earlier before he mentioned Crill. How do you spell that?
The way we spell it at this moment is actually, you might see people spell it C-R-I-L-L, but the way that it was given to us was C-R-L-L-L.
Crill.
The master explained that he doesn't like when we say his name incorrectly. So that's what I have. If anybody has any further or updated information, please assist me with that.
Okay, who is this entity? Because I've not heard of this entity.
Good to go. All right, you're dealing with a extraterrestrial being who, give me 1 second, I have something here.
All right.
This particular being here is a Wu-nuwaup being.
Martin.
These beings, as taught to us from, like the brother mentioned the book earlier, Who Lived Before the Adam and Eve story. I don't know if we may have it on the table, but it speaks about different beings. You were here last week.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So remember last week we were talking about the fact that when you're dealing with the interactions on this planet, you had different beings coming from different places.
Right, yeah.
These different beings have different attributes as well. When you're talking about Rumarians, for instance, as our master teacher has taught us ever since, like we said, the Who Lived Before the Adam and Eve story, and from the Holy Tablets, he explained that Crill is a Rumarian, that Rumarians are associated with peace and harmony. Okay? These particular beings are 4 feet tall. They weigh about 40 pounds. They have 5 fingers and they are benevolent, but they're not to be mistaken with another species of grays called Maccabeans. Because they, you know, whenever somebody says, oh, we're dealing with grays, or somebody says grays, spelled with the A or what have you, what they do is they put them all into the same category. But as the master teacher explained, there are many species of these particular beings coming from different places, having different attributes, having different technologies, having different stories. You understand? And when the master teacher first came writing the first writings that he wrote, and he gave to us since 1967, officially 1970, we had writings called Bible Interpretations and Explanation, and also Gift from Behind the 9-Ball, the 9-Ball series, right? And within that, it says, written by those who care. He explained that Crill is one of those beings who was there to assist him and give him information. Did you get that book last week that we talked about? My Brother the Extraterrestrial?
No, I'm gonna write it, right?
Yeah, make sure you write that down, because remember what I told you, that particular one, do we have any on the table by chance? Great. So that particular book right there, remember, last week was your first time here, right? So what I was explaining to you is within that book was written by our clan mother. This is how it looks here, right? And within this particular book, being that she's actually, as far as his physical body is concerned, she's his older sister, right? So she visits him every week. Our clan mother goes to visit him. She's in her 70s, and she's taking time every week to physically go and visit him, come back, and share with us whatever happened from that visit. This book is also a compilation of many of the conversations that she had, and from the fact that he can write her as well, much of the information that he shared with her to share with us. And a lot of this information in here is from different jail visits and things of that nature since like 2003. You understand? So the reason why I told you that this is such a good reference for you, and just for all of us, is the fact that it covers so much of who we are as a tribe, and information on every level, whichever level you're coming from. I remember you told me last week that you were coming from a Native American perspective and everything like that, which we are as well. If you were coming from a Christian perspective, we'd be able to stand and say, we come from that perspective as well. If you were coming from a Muslim, you know, so on and so forth. Because that's what he came to do. All the things that were most interesting to our people, he has to have no stone be unturned when it comes to our people.
Okay.
So there's more information in here pertaining to him, and I turn right to it. Let me check. Let me read this to you.
Okay.
This is on page. Oh, let me go to the mic. I'm sorry. Thank you, brother. All right, this is on page. Let's see. All right, let's go to. I'm kind of giving the context of where we're reading because it's questioned by the number, okay?
No problem.
It's her asking him the question and him responding. But this is starting from page 101. This is within number 4, questions 1 through 30. This is from June 5th, 2003, within Jones County Jail, okay? All right. Question 19 starts off and says, are you saying that these extraterrestrials are in fact the deities of the Torah, Gospel, and Quran? Answer, yes, that's the actual fact of Elohim, or Theos, or Theoi, or Alihat, or Rab, of Rabiun, Jah, of Yahwehim, Malak, or Malakim, Anak, of Anakim, Anu, of Anunnaki, God of gods. In their religions are these and other extraterrestrial visitors who have been coming, or their sons come as demigods or angels, Christ, world over, in all religions. That's the fact. 20. Question. Were those extraterrestrials good or evil world over? Answer. They are and can be both. 21. I noticed you said are and not were. Are they still visiting Earth? Answer. Yes, that's an actual fact. Today called UFO and USO, flying and submerging in waters to this very day, and will increase from 2000 AD up to 2009 AD, when your own will come for you, yet up to 2013 for them. Their rapture is really a sad day for them. We talked about this last week too. Their rapture is really a sad day for them, yet they don't know that fact. Millions of them go missing each year. They never see them, don't know where they have been taken. The overlords of them use TV to say it's always sexual predators who took them, when it's not. It's food for their gods. And the highest government officials have made deals with them in exchange for technology. It was Hitler's officers who put America in contact with ET.
There was a Canadian prime minister that mentioned that.
Okay.
Yeah, just recently, when he stepped down from office.
Okay. He mentioned that there was extraterrestrial
He mentioned that they
involvement
had
with the government?
contracts with them.
Okay.
Also, Dick Gregory, Papa Dick Gregory.
Yeah, you remember we mentioned that last week too?
Yeah, he mentioned that too.
Yeah.
I know that be true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you see that we might be crazy, but we're not crazy alone, right? All right. So it was Hitler's officers who put America in contact with ETs from the Andromeda star system in Aldebaran, who offered them to Draco's reptilians. So much, sis. Sad yet true. 22. Question. What about the Negroid race? Did we have our own extraterrestrial visitors? Answer. Yes. Called Natharu. Misspelled Natiru. So it's Pt.2 Natharu, who came from Sahat, Orion, and sabotage, Sirius star systems. These they bred from their own DNA mixing, Pamuntaru or Muntaru. Question number 23. And were they good or evil? Answer. They are and can be both. Question number 24. I again notice you said they are and not were. Are they still visiting us? Yes. And this is the one that goes directly into your question. The answer, yes. That is an actual fact today. In fact, every 10 years they checked on you or sent grays to check. And now it's 2003. In fact, your born day, her birthday, said June 5th, 2003. And you spent it visiting me. Well, let me say on the 26th of this month, which is our master teacher's birthday here, June 26, 1945 is the actual date, right? He says, well, let me say on the 26th of this month, my 3 little friends will incarnate to me, Crill, Alamar, and Syed, Grays, who have been with me since childhood in Teaneck, New Jersey, when they first came and took me. I think you remember how when I would come over to visit you, my nose would bleed so much. She interrupted him and she said, yes, I do remember, so much blood. You used to try and tell us they put something up your nose. You even said the real tall one was called Hinari. We did not believe you then, but now I know you are only physically my little brother, Duke, as Mama calls you. I do remember. He said, now he continues, well, they are still with me, and your brother is right here inside this body with me if needed. Don't worry, yet I am Padnabab Yanun. I can tell you the first lift was to be this year, this very year. You know they came, the whole city blacked out when they moved me to New York. The second lift will be 9/9 of 2009. I do hope you all are ready that day. The third lift, and then it says, Sister interrupts. She said, how many lifts will there be and how many will be allowed to go? He continues, he said, well, some things I can't tell you while the devils are listening to my phone calls, reading my mail and taping my visits. You will know in time. So as the Master explained here, Crill is one of the 3 beings that he called in this particular visit or this particular communication that these were his 3 little friends, which are the Greys, and they've been with him since his childhood.
Okay.
And every 10 years, they incarnate to pass more information or to upload more information to him to pass to us for what we need for our revolutionary process into actually transforming into who and what we are.
So one incarnated into,
He said that these 3 come to him every time. But when you say that one, are you talking about now in reference to what the brother was mentioning
yeah,
earlier?
he said one might have, I might have misheard, but he said one incarnate
As far as,
in Elijah Muhammad, or?
right. The master teacher had explained to us that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was being guided by Crill. And the person's question as to whether or not he knew or not, I can't be certain of that at this point. I mean, we can definitely ask more questions. What we will say is that the master teacher did explain that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive and he's on the mothership or the craft currently. So he has given us that information. And also, well, go ahead. You had something else, didn't you?
Has master teacher met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I'll do you one better.
Okay.
What the brother was mentioning earlier when he was speaking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as being a forerunner for the master, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's a book right here, if you see it, it's called Malachi, I Will Send You Elijah, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is taken from a live audio tape entitled Tribe of Shabazz by Elijah Muhammad in 1966, okay? Have you ever studied any of the teachings of the Nation of Islam? Or any of the teachings
Passingly.
of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Passingly.
Okay. There's a point within this conversation, this interview, where he was speaking about the coming of a great man. It says, well, first, let's go ahead and jump behind that. He's speaking about a great change that's taking place. And within it, he says a universal change is about to take place. He will be the one to bring about the change. And that book is giving to him to read or study to know what happened with us on this planet for the past 25,000 years, 50,000 or a million or a billion or a trillion years. But the coming of the just one that we now are getting acquainted with, he having the knowledge of the very beginning and those all of the history of the universe from their creation. And there is no end of his knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Therefore, you and I are lucky to be here in this time to get some of this knowledge that he is now imparting to you and I. Now he explains that there's the coming of a new book. He says, though we don't have the book that will take us into that great knowledge, into the hereafter, because of the present of this world, but soon after this world, he will have a new book that will take us into the beyond. But at the present time, we are finishing up what is written in the present book, our scripture, namely the Bible and the Holy Quran. And with this knowledge, up to the door of the hereafter, you and I should understand it so that we will know our place today and where to stand in the departure in the old world and the merging in of the new world. You are a great nation. You are the members of a mighty nation. You are members according to the teachings of Almighty God of a people that have no beginning nor ending, right? Now, the only being that has come having a new book that nobody else had, which as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that he got to see a glimpse of it, and he referred to it as the Book of Lamb because when he glimpsed at it, what he saw emanating from it was the Arabic letter Lam, which in English transliteration goes over into the letter L in English, right? And at the beginning of each particular tablet within the holy tablets, it started as saying Lo with that L, right? And it taught of information that went beyond those current books, being the Bible and the Quran. You understand? Which no other person provided as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated as a prerequisite for the being that was coming, which he referred to as the just one, right? Now let's move into another point on that. When who is the guy here? Louis Lomax, in a 1969 interview, this guy named Louis Lomax had an interview with them that he entitled "The Hate That Hate Produced." Basically, at the time, they were saying, okay, the Nation of Islam, this is black supremacy, yada yada yada. This is a hate group, and so therefore they're teaching hate, to hate the white man because the white man is the devil, this, that, and the third. Or so they're hating, right? In this question and answer, he spoke with the guy, and the guy said, he pointed out the fact that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that there will be a reawakening in the year of 1970. And he referred to this reawakening as the double resurrection, right? Within that, it goes back to that date that we spoke of when we said officially the master teacher came and he gave information from 1963, 1967, but officially the Ansarullah community officially began its move in 1970. The master explained that that was the opening of the seventh seal, and that was the opening of information that will be taking us into the hereafter. You follow? We had to go through the schools of those time periods like we explained, but this is still within that 6,000 year period that they had from 4000 BCE up to 2000. So when we say that we're now here in the hereafter, we're saying we're now here after their time to rule. Remember last week we spoke about cycles,
Right.
24,000 years split up into equal 6,000 year parts. Their 6,000 year has ended within the year 2000. So now we're here after that rule. This is what hereafter means. As we're going beyond where your Bible could take you and where your Quran could take you, especially with a limited understanding of the languages of either of those particular books. You understand? So our master teacher taught us the languages. He translated from the language of each of these books. We had the language, when we talk about having had the Holy Torah for ourselves and not somebody else's version, we had it with the English here, the mistranslation here, the actual script of the Hebrew here, and the translation word for word so that we could actually reference each particular point so that we would not be able to be deceived when it came down to somebody trying to tell us, well, this is what it says. Like in a conversation that I had with a Jehovah's Witness a few weeks back.
Is the Holy Tablets back here?
No, it's not. And the reason why that is, and you about to have me segue right into something that's so necessary. Matter of fact, we're going to speak on that.
Okay.
The master teachers explained that the Holy Tablets, the purpose of the Holy Tablets is the expiration of their religion. So he says, so what it did was it shows that that's the expiration and the explanation of their religion's expiration is what he said. So he said, so now we're at the point where we're beyond that. It has expired as far as that is concerned. We have a lot of people who have an issue when we say that. You understand? Because what it is within that period of time, we were still in the school of Sumerianism. So a lot of what we have within the Holy Tablets was geared towards the school or degree of Sumerianism. Right? So therefore, like you even hear it when you hear a bunch of the questions that are coming from online. People are referring to Anu, right? Because from a Sumerian perspective, Anu is as high as it goes. But our ancestors exist before Sumerian.
Right.
You understand? That was a stopping point along the way. Don't believe me? Let's check it out. I don't know how familiar you are with the classes online, but we'll say this. Not just our classes online, but just online in general, and really just people in general. We have a lot of people who have walked with the master during degrees, right? But what happens is sometimes people fall in love with the degree, and they don't want to move forward. Our master teachers taught us from the very onset that the only guarantee, the only thing that is constant, the only thing that we know is constant is change.
Nature is change.
You understand?
Yeah.
So what happens is you have people who get to a point to where they forget that that's a constant. So now their minds are so locked in because they fell in love with one school, not knowing that we have an ultimate point to go to, but these are the stopping points along the way. And Sumerianism being one of our, what we would consider to be one of the most profound schools that we were in, because we stepped outside of the thought process of what religion was. It's not one God. Elohim is Hebrew Strong's number 430. That means it's multiple beings. So then if we go to the Enuma Elish or Atrahasis, we see we're talking about multiple beings. See, over here in the Cuneiform form, this is talking about Anunnaki. But that's talking about a group of beings. That's one account for one group of beings. And they landed in Mesopotamia. Our ancestors aren't from Mesopotamia. That's not where our ancestors landed. So we have to start putting these facts in place. So before I get too far away, let's first and foremost prove, based on what our master teachers taught, and I have to do it in this way, you may not understand at this moment,
Right.
but everybody online who does know, they should hopefully, you know, the diligent amongst us should be able to appreciate why we're doing what we do. Sometimes people get really aggravated with us as Wu-nuwaupians. The master teachers taught us that the reason why we do what we do the way we do, because we have to give explanations, we have to give examination, we have to investigate, we have to be able to give descriptions, we have to be able to give definitions, we have to be able to do all that. That's why it's taking him so long to get us to the point where we are now. So I might be having a conversation with a person, they asked a question and they thought it was so simple, but now I'm giving them definitions and this, that, and the third, and now they're like, you're doing too much. It's like, I'm not trying to do too much, I'm just trying to make sure that no stone is unturned to the best of my ability, because you're gonna come back and you're gonna ask me a question that I could have actually set the way for you to be able to not even have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So, is Sumerianism just a degree? This book right here is called Pt.2. All right? The master teacher wrote this book. See, because many people have a problem with the fact that we're getting information while a master teacher's been incarcerated, kidnapped from us, as if to say that people that are incarcerated can't make phone calls, people that are incarcerated can't write letters, people that are incarcerated can't be visited, which becomes real preposterous when you think about the fact that we have like Mumia Abu-Jamal, who has a radio show, or he can do a commencement speech for a graduation.
I think they've canceled
Or
that.
they may have canceled it, but the fact that it existed lets you know that it was possible to get information out from behind the wall.
Right.
So that means we set the precedent. When we talk about Tookie Williams, when we talk about Nobel Peace Prize writing children's books, you see what I'm saying? We're talking about information coming in from behind the walls, but yet someone wants to limit us at this point now and tell us that Patnababi Yanun, with all the information that has to be given to us in this day and time, that we can't receive more information.
No.
Right, so we have to make sure we address that, because it's being, you know, put out there so hardcore in the rumor mills, if you would, right? But we're speaking of Sumerianism real quick. Inside of this book, which everybody who knows, Pt.2 was written while our master teacher was still here with us, so let's let him say what he said about Sumerianism then, before they kidnapped him. It says, on page 3 of the Ashtar scroll, I stressed in 1967, before establishing the first community in 1970 AD, that I came giving you what you want, so you would learn to want what I have to give. Well, we have reached the end of the 30-year period, broken up into three steps of 10 years each, and we moved on into the higher knowledge, the overstanding. You should have mastered the knowledge compiled into 3 books: the degree of Mosesism, the degree of Christism, the degree of Mohammedism, and each one of them books are like over 1,000 pages each. This thing is like this, each one of those degrees, right? And with those 3, the rudimentary degrees of the lesser mysteries have become of age to move on from 3 to the 4 degrees of the middle chamber. Sufism, Kabbalahism. Let me read about the number. 1, Sufism. 2, Kabbalahism. 3, Magiism. And 4, Sumerianism. Then on into the 7 degrees, which covered all of the Sumerian and Far Eastern studies embodied in the Sons of the Green Light, Sufi order, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek, the Essene or Magi order. Completing those 4 degrees will now prepare you to open the 8th chamber on into the 9th chamber of the ancient Egyptian order. On the back of many of our oldest books, the master teacher had a symbol called a pyramid of truth. Up under the pyramid of truth, you had all these different symbols pertaining to different philosophies, teachings, doctrines, dogmas. But at the very top, just like you see on the wall over there at the top of that pyramid there, you see the Eye of Re. You saw an Egyptian symbol at the top, just like you see that eye right there over here on this wall, at the top of the wall. At the very top, as the pinnacle of all information, the master teacher has always taught us that Egypt was the point of all the information. It was the pinnacle of all of that information. Sumerianism falls under that. So now when we start to explain certain things that we're explaining about the Anunnaki, and they're not being as related to us as we were previously taught because we were in that degree. Just like if I'm in school and they're teaching me regular math, inside of first grade or in kindergarten, and you say 2 minus 2 is what? 0. Then you say, well, 2 minus 3. They say, well, you can't do that because 3 is higher than 2. You can't take 3 away from 2. In basic math, that's the first thing they'll teach you when you're in elementary school.
Absolutely.
As to not confuse you. Because in the degree of mentality that you're in at that point, you wouldn't be able to grasp the other side of 0 yet. You understand?
Yeah.
So that means as you gradually move within the schools, then you are now more prepared to take on higher levels of information. You understand? So when it comes down to Sumer, there are higher levels of information that our master teacher has always pointed to. When you ask what's the name of our bookstore, it's not All Eyes on Sumer. You understand? The master teacher has never made a bookstore named All Eyes on Sumeria. It's always been All Eyes on Egypt, spelled with an I. And those of us that know, we know why.
In the order.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the thing is, there are a lot of people who are saying different things where they're trying to keep us locked into an old school while we're getting more detailed information. Now, let's speak to what the master. Well, there's another issue. I heard this particular. I had a conversation with someone who was telling me that there was someone who had questions about one of the things that our master teacher had taught us dealing with the constellation, as we know it, of Orion. Okay, with this particular constellation that we see as 7 stars, right, with the 3 stars in the belt that just so happen, right, to be able to be perfectly aligned with the 3 pyramids of Giza, right? Just so happens, right, that our ancestors' ability to have the exact angle of each one of the points on these pyramids to where you can literally see heaven on earth if you're looking at it from a sky point of view, right? We just so happen to choose those in that connection, right? We just so happen to do that, right? We made a mistake and it just happened to be that perfect, right? As our connection to that particular star constellation, right? But you have people who are literally saying things like, we're only staying stuck to Egypt because we're trying to keep a connection to this particular star constellation, right? But what they're doing now, being that the master teacher is giving us higher levels of information, they're saying things like, and I know you're not familiar with this point, so this is for everybody else with you. You're just along for the ride, so let's ride, you know, because you kind of took me there, right? They're saying the newest information or the most up-to-date information that our master teacher taught us was that the 3 stars that you see as the belt of Orion are in fact the 3 suns around the planet which our master teacher has always taught us that he's come from, called the planet Risk, which is in the 19th galaxy, called Ilion, right? And it's a trisolar solar system, meaning that it's got 3 suns, right? So he explained, and he even gave the diagram. He gave the diagram and sent that down for us to be able to show. And he sent this diagram down in letters, right? So from the information that he sent, we explained from here that that was the latest information that we have received. I've heard that there are, you know, individuals, and it's no disrespect because, you know, the thing is, of course we're supposed to go and do our research with each other. Of course, we're supposed to ask questions and things of that nature. That's being diligent, and we respect that. What happens is people will take the mind frame of just studying as the master teacher taught us. Don't believe me? Check it out. And what they'll do, every time we're in a transition from one school to another, they'll try to use what he taught them against him. You see? So they'll try to use it against him, and he's the one that taught them that, right? But I heard that it was said, and I don't like to go by hearsay, but this is a conversation that we were having, that a person says that it's totally illogical for that to even be the case, for the 18th and 19th galaxy to be able to be linked by way of these particular stars. So going into when the master says that the holy tablets is expired or needs to be brought up to date, a person says that we're making up things when it comes down to the holy tablet, as if the holy tablet was the total culmination of all the information that our master teacher has come to teach us. He came to teach us 76 trillion years worth of information. If we were to ask those who are diligent, has the master teacher taught us everything that he came to teach us? The answer would have to be no, right?
Right.
But in a class called Little Green Men, this was a lecture from 1998.
And by Savior's Day, we'll start with chapter 1, verse 1, explaining this holy tablet. But here's the problem. Another book has come through, right? It's as thick as this and more detailed. You follow? By the time you get here, you're going to be going to another whole book. They're sending information that's been long lost in time to come back. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, there's another book called the Black Book that I started to, if you was on the internet, I gave you the chapter and verse. I started to send the verse to, and I said, whoop. I held it back and I just answered the question because I didn't want to put it into the internet so the devils can get out on it. You know, until we get it to your hand. So I get to you, don't worry about it. There's nothing that I've been sent here to tell you that they're going to ever be able to prove wrong. Nothing.
The master teacher had explained that there was another book that was coming after the holy tablets had come, which was thicker and more detailed than the holy tablets, which this right here is the first half of the first chapter of that book. This is called the Black Book, or the Sacred Records of Atum Re, right? In the introduction to this particular book, not even in the book all the way, but in the introduction, he explains on, let's see, what is this? 1, 2. This is the third page, not even numbered, it's just totally in the introduction. It says, the first ones to be warned by the guardian beings called Etherians about the dangers were the 9 Enneads, and they in turn warned the 24 Natirat supreme beings, or Natharu, who warned the 144 Afretiat pharaohs. Crafts were prepared for these elders to depart this planet for another planet in the same galaxy, Ilion. For another planet in the same galaxy, Ilion, remember we said this was the 19th galaxy, they headed for one of the 18 other planets in the 19th galaxy, Ilion. This planet was Septet. So Siptu, that which shares the 18th and 19th galaxy, the link between the two. You call it Sirius, and whom the Greeks call Saltus, having 2 moons, and its sister system, Mertzam. We went there in order to prepare a plan and solution of the problems on our home planet before its total destruction, which would have resulted in a star holocaust and a total destruction of the 18th galaxy, the Milky Way, where you presently reside. So within the introduction to the Black Book, which the master teacher explains, is more updated, detailed information than the Holy Tablets from February 15th, 1998, when he had that lecture, right? From that point, he explained that there was more details that needed to be given, and he said that this was thicker than the Holy Tablets. What we've learned is that the Black Book is actually 19 chapters. Remember what I told you? This right here, the Black Book that I'm holding, this is only the first half of the first chapter. And what's being circulated out on the internet that has leaked from people who couldn't hold something that was supposed to be trustworthy with the second degree of this, holding the second half of the first chapter, It's been leaked onto the internet, but that's still only the rest of the first chapter. We got 18 more chapters. And people are saying that we don't have more information to receive. You understand? This is the type of thing that we have to deal with, and we respect everybody's diligence. But what we want to make sure that we say to all of those who are asking that question, maybe you want to use references not only in the Holy Tablets, but we can also move to where there's more detail, as we know our Master Teacher explained that there was more details when he spoke of the sacred records of Atum Re, to say the least. And if you're questioning about why we are dealing with Egypt and not with Sumeria, as Egypt being the pinnacle, then refer to Pt.2, page 3, so that you can understand that it's not what we're saying is not actually new. It's us following through with where the Master Teacher has been taking us to. You follow? So we're still on a continued journey. And we still, like he said, and I told you last week as well, how the Master Teacher has always explained that we were to take a long journey on a short path. He explained that means we have to get a lot of information in a short period of time. And so that means we also cannot be distracted by misinformation when we can easily go back and see what our Master Teacher has taught, because the way that he's taught us, by way of using our nine mind, we can put pieces together. He didn't write the book saying, okay, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Chronological thinking or linear thinking, that's the way that Kakatsu have to learn. You go from kindergarten to first grade, to second grade, to third grade. What our Master Teacher has taught is he'll write a book and it'll say scroll number 15. Then he'll write another one and say scroll number 125. You see what I'm saying? He said, but with your ability, being a nine-ether being, having the ability to use sound right reasoning on nine mind, you have the ability to take that information from this level and from this level, and through circular reasoning, you have the ability to put it all together where it needs to be. And he explained that that makes us a part of the learning process. When he mentions something and then we go and do our due diligence and we do our research, we can put the pieces together and then be able to reason these things out as we await going to the next level. And there's another thing that I need to read, not for you per se, but for others as well, because Patarak also explained for people, because what's going to happen is, or what happens is, we deal with somebody saying, oh, there they go again, they're moosing, they're making up stuff. I don't accept Patarak. How can that come down? Have you ever received, you see this right here? Everybody see this right here? This right here is literally a compilation of letters. This isn't all the letters, but this is a compilation of letters that our Master Teacher has written since I came into the doctrine. That, because a lot of you, we can't write our Master Teacher right now, but there was a time when we could all write them. A lot of people who talk a lot of noise and they have a lot of slanderous things to say didn't even take the opportunity and time to actually write him then. You follow? When I came to the doctrine, which was
why we can't write them?
Because what they do is they play with his writing. You understand? What happens is things get sabotaged. Remember what I told you last week? You live in a point in time right now where you don't have to think about saying, okay, this is what happened in the 60s. COINTELPRO and all of that stuff happened in the 60s. We're letting you know that, no, we live in a time to where this is our current reality. You understand? So you have people who are literally here as saboteurs to sabotage the mission. They are implanted. Don't believe me? Check it out if you've ever heard of COINTELPRO. The FBI set up COINTELPRO just for the purpose of trying to stop what you see around you right now. The ability for you to have books on a table that are talking in reference to you specifically. Not generally speaking, but to you specifically. From a being incarnated to come to you to give you information you need for your genetics. You understand? Rather than saying, I'm a person telling you to go and look at what these white people over here told you. You've got your own in this day and time. And they were so, like you said this Canadian guy already had made a mention of extraterrestrial involvement and things of that nature, right? So they're coming slowly out to say, okay, we've got these different beings, these different extraterrestrial beings who we've got contacts with, right? But what about the first beings manifested on this planet in the physical body? Did we not have our own extraterrestrial connection as well, being our ancestors? And if so, if everybody else received their own warners, can we not have our own warner sent to us? Just because you turn around and you have a being tell you that, hey, I manifested for you, to give you this information, and then I give you so much information by standing and allowing myself to be questioned by anybody in any language at any point in time. I'll write 360 questions to ask whoever want to get anything, right? And I will also put a rebuttal out to whatever book you want to try to come out to be slanderous towards what move we have going on in the moment, right? He asked the question, how right does a man have to be before you accept his divinity? And my question to everybody is, when have they ever proved him wrong?
I can't find that.
That's going to have to be rhetorical at that point. Because see, for me, I didn't find the fault because I came from being a Christian. And I was scared, as religion breeds fear. I was scared at first, like, yo, I got to check this out. I got to figure out what's going on. And as I did, I walked with him, you see? And I studied for myself as a truth seeker for myself, as a diligent inquirer for myself, and also as a loyal Nuwaupian. You see, we got people who don't fall, they fall out of that category. You got people who get a lot of information and then they like to sound heavy. That's why when I'm standing here, this podium, I want everybody online to make sure that you pay real close attention to this podium too, because you can go and look up old classes and you'll see this same podium. We got to clean this thing up. This same podium is the same podium that the master teacher taught from. This isn't our podium, this is his podium. We just, like I said before, we're keeping it warm. You got other people who are going to build their own. We stand right here. This is literally a piece of our story right here, touched by our master right here. So people can say what they want to say. They can go off and build their own little thing or whatever because they get to sound heavy. Because once they left from being taught from him, some people said, oh, you sound deep. I'm with you. You see what I'm saying? But no, we never left. Those of us that's here, we here with him. Because we still got more to go. It's still in session. The mission ain't over. But let me read this one part right here, and this is addressed to those that want to know as well. And this is important, right? This, you can go online. Did you go check out the Paterack YouTube channel? Because remember I gave
I don't even know how to spell that. I'm sorry.
No problem, let me write it. Oh yeah, okay. Well, I'll put it up for him right here, right now, too. Paterack, like I said, this means the way. The master said this is the revelation to the Wu-nuwaup. He talks about our culture. It gives us, it's basically, it's our holy book. It also begins with what, it also begins with that lamb that Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke of, because in our language of Wu-nuwaupu, at the beginning of each one of them, you see lekum. So once again, you still hear that le sound. Arabic was the language of Islam, so of course it makes sense for it to be a lamb. You talk about Arabic, the language of Islam. But then when you're talking about the tone being that L, Paterack begins with le as well, lekum. Once, you know, just another thing. If people ain't gonna accept it, then whatever. Okay, on this Paterack that you can go and reference by going online YouTube, and I definitely, oh man, this Paterack is all Paterack is just. This one is called The Anunnaki. It hasn't been it hadn't been printed yet. Like I said, I have to be. Whenever I get it, I mean, I know what I have to do. I know what our job as student teachers is. Our job is to be able to share as much information as we have received and be able to give it to you in the best way that we can, which is what he's taught us to do. Within this particular Paterack called the Anunnaki, and I'll make sure that our good brother puts a link to it on this particular class too, for those that, you know, you want to check it out after class, or after you watch the class. In this Paterack called the Anunnaki, it says, before the Anunnaki, this is starting from verse 28. Before the Anunnaki, the original An existed, and that within Paput, the All. The celestial devil, Nanar, Sin, Zuin, made it where you cannot even learn the truth without sounding like you are contradicting the Most High. My dedicated readers know that for years I have been trying to get the facts to you, yet being that you are trapped in persons, places, and things, his domain, it is very, very difficult. So you begin to ask me questions because you think you figured out a mistake or a flaw in what I'm teaching. Such as, how could Anu and the Holy Tablets be the Most High if the Most High could never be seen? It is the demonic mind of the lower reptilian in you that made you surrender to the demonic interpretation of things and to badger those sent to raise you up out of person, places, and things. You want to comprehend it on your level when it does not always work that way. This doctrine is trying to teach you that before the hydrogen atom, before the law of corpuscles, atoms, cells, organisms, tissue universes, plants, or matter, beings existed in states that are beyond your comprehension. The purpose is for you to gradually let me raise you without looking for faults along the way. You will reach that perfect level of divine consciousness and be restored as a deity, as they would call it again in their language. So, that's just one part there. But he explained how when you're dealing with these beings, you got beings who literally set it up by way of us being up under their spell of ignorance for this period and their spell of religion and racial indifference and everything else. Like I saw on Facebook today, you got people talking about, look, I don't see race or anything, but you know, it is messed up what's going on in Ferguson and this, that, and the third, but I don't see race. Like, what do you mean you don't see race? Your eyes don't work? You colorblind? Jehovah's Witness told me that I don't see color. You might want to get that checked. You understand what I'm saying? Because the reality of the matter is, this is what is. We're not talking about some old kumbaya spook, let's all be one, because that's not nature. If we was all supposed to be one by nature, why did we come out different? Why is it that we are the only original, unique being still on this planet that has hair and not fur like every other animal on the planet? That makes us unique. But yet you tell us that we shouldn't be unique because we want to believe in your religion that Jesus came for everybody, but yet this God has a chosen people that ain't us. So that's racism in and of itself. You want to tell me I'm supposed to believe in Jesus, I'm supposed to get down with God, but he didn't even choose my people, even though he was first. So I want to know who chose to make me first. I want to know what makes my DNA be the oldest on the planet. That's what I would like to know. Who am I? There's an actual fact that the master teacher wrote called, "Who are you, not what you accept?" Because he says your DNA tells you who you are. When somebody says, oh, well,